Today's episode of How Did Jason Do That is brought to you by Tenacra, Power Automate, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft OneDrive, and ReqRes. Hello and welcome to How Did Jason Do That? Today I'll be showing you how to use Power Automate to make an HTTP request to an API, retrieve that information, then store it in an Excel file in OneDrive. To do this yourself, you will need a Microsoft 365 tenant with access to Power Automate, OneDrive, Excel, and SharePoint Online. If you don't already have an M365 license, head over to Microsoft 365 right now and get yourself one. Before we get started today though, don't forget to hit subscribe, click the bell icon to get notified when another one of my videos becomes available, and please leave your comments below. Okay, let's do this. First, we'll go to ReqRes at ReqRes.in. This is a free service that allows you to make requests and get responses using an API. It's REST API ready to respond to your requests, as it says here. So we'll have a look at some of the things you can do. For example, we can get a list of users. We can get a single user. We can create users. We can update users or delete them. So right off the bat, we're just going to get a list of users. The idea behind this is we're going to get a list of users from ReqRes. You can see that here. And we're going to get this information, parse that information out, and throw it inside an Excel document. So let's get started. First off, I'm going to crack open Power Automate, and I'm going to build an instant cloud flow. We're just going to call this ReqRes to Excel. Nice and simple. It's going to be a manually triggered flow, so I select that, and I'll hit create. I'm going to click new step, and I'm going to search for connectors, and I'm going to look for HTTP. I'm going to choose the HTTP premium connector. This does require an extra license, so you may have to purchase it if you don't already have it. So here we go. So method, what this is it's asking how do we ping the API. So let's just have a look here. So we have get, put, post, patch, and delete. That kind of makes sense. Let's just have a look here. So specifically, we're going to get a list of users, and that's using the get. So I'm going to choose get from that. Under URI, I'm going to get the full site URL, which is https requests.in. I'm going to throw that in there. But there's also more to it. Let's just have a look. So specifically to get a list of users, we're going to have to use this request. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to append it to the back of this. Now we have a couple of slashes. I'll get rid of one of them. So this is the full URI that you want to use. It pings the ReqRes website, their API, question, and pulls back the users. So I'm going to hit save. Okay, now we're going to test this out. So on the top right, we'll hit test. We'll just do a manual test at the top. Hit the test button. Let's hit run flow and we'll see what happens. It looks like our flow was successful. Let's have a look to see what it brought back. So let's expand HTTP and have a look here. So if we scroll down to the body, we'll see that it did indeed ping the ReqRes API and pulled back email, first name, last name, and avatar, but also pulled back ID. So using this information, I am going to build an Excel document that has all 5 of these columns. We have an ID, an email, first name, last name, avatar. So I'm going to go into OneDrive and I'm going to create a new Excel document. We're going to go with ID as the first item, first name, last name, email, and their avatar. Now, in order for the document to receive information from Power Automate like this, we're going to have to convert this into a table. So I'm going to select all 4 of those or all 5 of those items. And we're going to go to format as a table and just choose whichever one that looks prettiest to you. So I'll just choose that one there. It's asking you if the data for your table is in the following range. It is, and my table has headers, which is exactly what that is there. So I'll go OK, and now we'll see that it is indeed a table. You'll be able to sort and filter against this when there's more information inside. So we're good here. I'm going to rename this document ReqRes. Just hit enter, and now it saves it into OneDrive with that name. Okay, that being said now, what we want to do is we want to get back results from this API. And what we're going to do is what we call parsing. So we're going to get the data from what was returned by the HTTP request. And I'm going to go new step. And we're going to go parse. Here's parse JSON. We'll just choose that. In parse JSON, the content that you want to give it is the step above. So we'll just have a look here. Dynamic value should be the body of the step above. So I'll do that. And then for the schema, what it's looking for is the JSON format that it's going to try to parse. So what we'll do is we'll go generate from sample. We'll go back to ReqRes, and I'm just going to copy this response here. This is the way it's going to come back. Just select that, copy it, and paste it in, and hit done. Power Automate will then get all that information and put it into a format that it likes to see. So we'll hit save, and we'll just do another test. I personally find testing all the way throughout the development process very handy, just to make sure that it's doing the right thing and you don't have to backtrack too much. So I'm just going to run flow again, just have a look to see what this does. So it looks like it was again successful. If we go to parse JSON, we'll notice that it did indeed parse the JSON. Now that we're parsing the data, we want to be able to get the information for each user. So what we have to do here is what they call a apply to each control. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply to each, and when it says select an output from previous steps, we'll choose the parse JSON data. So the idea here is for each entry, it's going to apply to each one of these and do something. So in this case, before we go to Excel, we're just going to do, just to make sure it's actually retrieving that information per person, is we're going to go compose. Now compose is a great way, I personally find it a great way to just test things. It doesn't put data anywhere, but just make sure that you're actually properly pulling the data from the steps above. So we'll hit the dynamic value, and we're going to see when we do that, when I scroll through the stuff that's parsed, we have all the information that we need: ID, email, first name, last name, avatar. So I'm going to start building this out just to show it off, just to see, make sure it's actually pulling the data properly. We'll go ID, hit a space, I'll go first name, hit a space, go last name, hit a space, we'll go to email next, and then we'll go finally to the last one, avatar. So you can see I'm just building up a little, I just want to see it come back once it applies to each, and the intent here, hopefully, is that we get all these users, however many there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 users. So we should get this looping through 6 times, and with the compose, we should have 6 different ones, 6 different people in there. So let's just give that a test. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to go test, and let's watch this happen. Hit run flow, hit done. It looks like it was successful. So let's expand this apply to each and see what happens. So indeed, it looks like it looped through the parse JSON 6 times, and it had a compose that was, as you see, the check mark that was successful. And just have a look. So we have 7, the ID, Michael, first name, Lawson, last name, email address, and their URL, so their avatar. So, and that should be true for all 6. We could just page through with this next. So the next one we have is Lindsay Ferguson. We have Tobias Funk, we have Byron Field. So that indeed did work. So we are actually pulling the data from the ReqRes API with each user and looping through those users. So what can we do with that? Well, we can now start putting that into the Excel document. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add an action, and I'm going to search for Excel, and specifically we're going to go Excel Online for Business. I am going to then add a row into a table. So I'm going to choose this option under Excel, add a row into a table. It's going to ask me where this Excel document is. So we'll just wait till this is loading. So we'll have a look here. We'll just go OneDrive, your OneDrive for Business. Under Document Library, just choose OneDrive. Let's search for that file by clicking on the folder icon, and then ReqRes Excel document. Now that it has access to the Excel document, it's going to ask you to select the table. We didn't give the table a special name, it's just table 1, so that's absolutely fine. So we'll just choose table 1. Once I've chosen table 1, you'll see that it then surfaces those columns that we had made into that table earlier in the Excel document. So what we'll do is we'll just click inside ID. We'll hit add dynamic value. We are going to choose the ID. Under first name, we'll hit add dynamic value again. Choose first name. Just keep repeating these processes until we get all the information. Last name. Then we have email. And then we have avatar. Done. So I'm going to hit save. Now, just to confirm, we have our Excel document here. I'm just going to open it up. You can see there's absolutely nothing in here right now. It's nice and empty. So if this works, the intent is that once it once it loops through all those items in the API call, it should then add a row for each person and just loop through until it's gone through all of the returned results. Let's just give that a test. Hit test, go manual, test, and it's asking me to sign into Excel. Sure, it sounds good. Let's just do that. Let's continue, and we'll run our flow. So we'll just watch this happen here. Hit done. We'll watch the flow run. As you can see right now, it's looping through. Shouldn't take too long. And it looks like our flow ran successfully. And it did it 6 times. So first it composed. We didn't really need the step here, but I just kept it in anyway. So it composed Michael Lawson, and then it added a row to a table. You could see that it put in 7 Michael Lawson with his email address. So let's go check that out. And what do you know? Here's our table. I'm just going to expand these out so we can see. And as you can see, it actually wrote the values into Excel. Nice and easy. And you can do this again and again just for testing. So what the heck, I'll just hit edit. We'll go test again, a manual test. And you can see you could just keep adding to it. Just wait for this to run. And it was successful again. We'll have a look at the Excel document. And as you can see, it did it again. So this is how you tap into an API using Power Automate to return results in Excel. Let's just go one step further. Perhaps the data needs to go somewhere else. So I have a SharePoint site built up, ready to go. And we're just going to go into site contents. We're going to create a new list. Kind of replicate what we did with Excel. So we're just going to call this ReqRes. And then create. Now we have the title. You know, I'm just gonna use the title as the capture for last name. We'll add another column for text. We'll call this first name. We're gonna get another field in there, text, and we're gonna record the ReqRes ID. SharePoint already has an ID field and it's kind of reserved and we don't want to use it. We're just going to create another one that's just going to be a separate ID field that it pulls from the API call. I'm then going to add an email. And then I'm going to add the last one, which is the avatar. We could do fun things with it, like making an actual hyperlink, but in this case, we're just going to keep it basic text. I just want to show you the data being put into the SharePoint list. So under title, I'm actually just going to rename this one. I'm going to call it last name. Now, be warned that even though I've named it here last name, its internal name is still title, and when we're trying to put information into it using Power Automate, it still may surface as title, so just so you know. We're going to go to run history again, or into our Power Automate, sorry, and underneath add row to a table, I'm actually going to add a new action here. And one of them is add item. And you'll see that we have, create item is a better choice here. We'll notice that we have create item in SharePoint, and that's exactly what we want to do. So what we do is under site address, we click, and just going to get the URL to that site. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So we can add a custom item, and I'll do that. I'll just throw the URL of the site that I want it to go against. So okay, so we have the site is ReqRes, and if I look at the list name, we have the ReqRes list that I've just created. So it's ready to go, and very much like what we just did with the Excel, it then surfaced all of the fields. And as I warned you, it's not going to carry over last name. It kept the internal name of title, so that's absolutely fine. So in the title field, I'm going to add a dynamic value, and we're just going to add from the parse JSON step, last name. Then we're going to do the same thing under the parse JSON and go first name, the ReqRes ID, like so. We're going to get the email, and we're also going to put in the avatar. There it is. I'm going to hit save. Once this is saved, I'm just going to get rid of this compose field because we know that it's working. Save again. So I'll have a look again. I'm just going to look at the Excel document. We have 12 entries here. When I hit it again, we're going to get an additional 6, of course. But now we're going to get 6 items within the SharePoint list. That's the intent. So let's go ahead and test it. I'll go test, go manually. Sounds good. It's going to ask me to sign in to SharePoint. Sounds good. Let's sign to SharePoint. And I'm going to run the flow. So let's cross our fingers and hope this doesn't fail. But it shouldn't. Let's expand out this apply to each as we watch it run. Successful flow. So it did for each person in the HTTP call, it parsed the JSON, it added a row to the table, and then created an item in the SharePoint list. Let's just have a look first at the Excel, and what do you know? We've added 6 more in, just like promised. And now if we go to Excel, SharePoint, we'll notice that list also has the same items in here as well. You can make a request to an API, get results, parse through those, and then loop through the results, and then put the data wherever you want. And really, the sky's the limit. I mean, just Excel and SharePoint are just 2 of the options you can do, but you can do other things with it. I don't know, manually create tweets if you feel like it, but that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining me today on this video on how to use Power Automate to make HTTP requests to an API. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave your comments below. And please visit my channel again to see how did Jason do that. And until next time, keep experimenting with Microsoft 365's offerings. Take care.